religion in the news.
We can do that ourselves.
I love that ditty. Yes. Rebel religion in the news. Okay. What are we supposed to do when retire? Now, keep in mind, you're going to be listening from three older people. Nice way of putting it. Older gentlemen. We're all retirement age. And what is a Christian supposed to do in retirement?
I got a few years left before
I
retirement.
understand.
Come on.
Well, no, but technically we are retirement
Alfredo
age.
looks young.
Yeah, okay.
We're retirement age.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's considered as early as you can go 62, Social Security, at least in the United States. So, okay.
True.
So what are we supposed to do when we get older as Christians? And the article that we're referencing is by a writer named Robert Tomasi, and he's with the Christian Post. And he writes, the headline is, should Christians' life goal, the goal, be to retire and play golf? It doesn't sound so bad. Doesn't sound so bad. I'm with
You haven't seen my golf game.
yeah, we haven't seen Peter Hansen, the Bishop Peter Hansen at the St. Augustine Anglican Church. And it's interesting you said that because I may as well mention it again. Earlier, last weekend, Scotty Scheffler made real news because he won the major British Open. And even before he won, he said that golf is not that, it's important to him, but it doesn't give him joy, that he's attained all his goals. And he says the happiness lasts for about, 2 minutes? And then it goes away. It doesn't really bring meaning or joy to his life. And I thought that was real words of wisdom. Of course, he's a Christian and a good family man, so that explains at least part of it.
His perspective, yeah. Also, it's that thing where you can say, I have a job, that's what I do, but it's not who I am.
Right.
Golf is just a way to ruin a very nice walk.
Very good.
Yeah, it's also a great way to refrain from cursing.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, is it?
yeah, because I've been on the golf course a couple of times, and I've heard more expletives than I think I've ever heard.
Oh, it's a good exercise. Hold your tongue.
In our daily lives, what we do is governed at least in part by goals. And this is what we were just talking about with Scotty Scheffler. We have goals to do things. But when we get to a certain age, is there a point where it's acceptable in the eyes of God to say, you know what, I'm just going to relax? And I think I know where we're going to go here. I don't want to predict it, but I would suggest that it's going to be a level of both. That God wants us to enjoy and recreate, but also to still be involved in the church. I guess that's probably where we're going here.
Americans, frankly, don't know how to relax usually.
Ooh.
Except to lie down in front of the TV set and be couch potatoes. But that's a weird kind of relax. Mm-hmm. We don't know how to just be. We got to be out at something. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of sad when your top goal in life is to shave 3 strokes off your back 9. You know.
I don't even know what that means.
Yes, you do.
I really kind of don't. I've never really played ever. I haven't played golf ever in my life. Mini golf.
Improve your score.
Improve
thank
your
you.
score 3 shots over the last 9 holes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't hit a golf ball in decades.
Right.
But
Well, you're likewise.
I've never hit under 100. So.
Well, I found a golfer that was worse than I am. That's wonderful.
We should go golfing together. Yeah.
We should.
I got rid of my golf clubs finally.
I'm really good with the holes with the windmill. I do really well
I
on
can do
those.
Yeah, the windmill always gets me.
No, I'm just thinking that, I've heard that before about what do you do, what it's like. For example, when you're in the church, you're a pastor, associate pastor, a worship leader, a children's director. I mean, when do you want to retire and what do you want to do after retirement? Well, you may retire from what your job is, but you don't retire from ministering. Mm-hmm. You don't retire from being an ambassador of Christ. So no matter what I would do after retirement, I would still have the same goal, and that's being an ambassador of Christ. I would still want to share the gospel. I'd still want to make disciples. I just don't have that title anymore. Mm-hmm. Sure, I don't have the responsibilities of preaching every Sunday, but we know Pastor Tim Rule. He pretty much retired from full-time preaching. But this guy is busy like crazy. I mean, you're busy like crazy, and I'm busy. And I want to be busy for the Lord. Doesn't matter what my position is. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I guess what the question, and I think the topic of the headline is, should a Christian's life goal be to retire and play golf? And I think there is something maybe deeper with that, because I think as we, and I can only speak, I guess, for myself, but as I've reached the point where I'm getting ready to take Social Security and maybe step aside for a while, there's a saying that you don't retire from something, retire to something.
Yeah, that's for
There
sure.
you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah, when you see somebody retiring and they ask them, well, what are your plans? What are you going to do? Yourself? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I go, oh,
That's not good.
that's heart attack land.
Yeah.
You chug and chug and chug and chug all the way through to your late 60s, early 70s, and finally just give it up and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
People die.
Do you ever have parishioners who come and actually ask you these questions? Does this thing ever come up where, or maybe you recognize somebody who's an older gentleman or lady who's in the pews, and you think to yourself, I wonder what their lives are like now, and is it important to reach out to those folks, maybe more so than even the younger people? And do we do enough of that? Do we do enough of going to older folks and making sure that they do have something to live for? And should that be part of our responsibility?
My wife is disabled. She doesn't have use of her hands or anything really. She has a very advanced case of something like MS. And she works. She goes to the church. She's the HR director, and she works very, very hard, and she's very smart and intelligent. However, she doesn't have use of her hands. There's a wonderful woman named Donna who is retired from whatever her day job was, a few years ago, obviously. Now she stays busy by volunteering for the church. What she does, she's the hands for my wife. She goes in when my wife works and she files and touches the computer and does what needs to be done, writes out things, whatever needs to be done. That is a wonderful way to stay busy and help somebody else. I respect her greatly because she retired from whatever her job was, but she's still involved in the church. She's still serving people as a volunteer. I would love to do something like that.
The entire Bible mentions retirement one time. It's in the book of Numbers. It says of the Levites, and maybe there's some perspective that needs to be added here, but the ceremonial priests of Israel at the age of 50 must retire from their regular service and work no longer. They may assist their brothers in performing their duties, but they themselves must not do the work. That is from Numbers chapter 8, verses 25 and 26. God had a succession plan for the priests who performed the rituals, but even then, the retired priests were to continue assisting those who had taken place. And I think we see this a lot with pastors. Pastor Tim Rule, for example, at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, he is the pastor emeritus, which sounds so grand. It just means he's retired and still works a little bit around the church, right?
But retired, given full honors, has a place at the table, can help make decisions. I mean, emeritus has some clout to it. If I ever retire.
That's a good question.
Okay.
I was going to ask that, but I mean, is it something that you think about more? I mean, obviously it's something you think
Yeah, it
about
comes
more
across my mind, certainly. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Tired is one thing, retired is another. It's tired all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the idea is having something to retire to, and I think that's one of the issues that some people face as they get older. And I know that with my own personal, well, not to be too personal, but my father, he retired back in the 80s. He retired at the age of 62, which was the normal thing to do back then. 62 was the full retirement age. You take your money and you retire. And he had nothing to do. He sat around and he watched TV. He would just sit around and watch TV. And then what are you going to do now? Oh, I'm going to sit down on the couch and watch TV. And hey, so what do you say we watch a movie? Let's watch TV. And he'd get out and walk every once in a while. And I could tell you that, he had a best friend across the street. And his best friend, Gene, he died. And then at that point, my dad just kind of, we had an empty nest house, and he just didn't have any get up and go, and he had nothing to go toward. So I think that's a big part of it.
We need goals, but they need to be sort of worthy goals. I mean, goals that if we accomplish it, we're going to feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
And not just for ourselves' sake, but to be able to say, I gave something away today. I gave my time and made somebody's life better. A feeling of accomplishment. I think it's something that you don't have to get retired to be there to do that. But certainly in retirement, it's a wonderful thing. I know a lot of people, when they get retired, they get more busy than they were in working life.
Oh, yeah. We just had a lady in our church, one of our leaders, our prayer leader. she just retired from her job, worked for the school district, and she says she's more busy now than when she worked. I mean, she's filled her plate with ministry and Bible studies and serving others, and she's just a wonderful, remarkable example of somebody that had a plan for retirement after had a plan, and she's living it out. Me, I think I got another 10, 15 years in me in ministry. I don't know if I'll retire, kind of like you. I can't say that I'm not retiring from any ministry really, but I mean, will I still want to be the lead pastor? I don't know. I'll go as long as God wants me to. Let's put it that way,
Yeah.
But I definitely have a plan after retirement. I got grandkids. I'm gonna spend a lot of time with grandkids. I still want to lead my men's Bible study, and I don't know what really the future holds for me. I just don't have any plans for retirement.
Sometimes retirement is forced on you. I mean, I for a year I was not working, just working some odds and part-time jobs, and it was difficult. I mean, I was like, give me something to do, because if you sit around and you're just like, your mind just starts, and it's not, it's physically, yes, but it's also mentally. Your mind just starts to go,
If I rest, I rust.
oh yeah,
Oh, that's good. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we have about a minute left in the segment, but there's something I do want to talk about, and we're going to touch on it now because it kind of ties into this. There's a new app out, and we want to discuss this. And this is actually very interesting to me. It's called the Death Clock app, and it uses artificial intelligence to predict when you'll die. And I'm just wondering, do we want to know when we die? Is this really a good idea? If you knew the exact date of your death, would there be something good about that? What are the consequences? Maybe high anxiety in your life. But if you were a Christian and you knew the moment you were going to die, would that be better than not knowing the moment you're going to die? Anyway, we are going to step aside. We're going to be taking a break right now. We're speaking with Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Anglican Church, and of course, Pastor Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life. We'll talk about the death clock when we come back. All right, for those of you who think it's not a good idea to know when you die, the exact moment you're going to die, I refer you to the thief on the cross, who knew exactly when he was going to die. He knew how he was going to die, and he had a chance to make it into paradise because he had the main man right next to him. And so the idea that you would know when you are going to die, would this be a good thing to know? Somebody who's who's facing the death penalty, for example. He or she knows that at 12:01, it's lights out. And you have a chance to prepare your soul. You have a chance to know, okay, to strengthen your relationship with Christ. I think this Death Clock app is a very interesting discussion. Would you want to know the exact date you were going to die? Both of you.
That's
a hard question.
It's a hard question. I mean, okay, let's say you do know, you got over the heebie-jeebies about
Yeah.
finding out. Okay, now I know, it's going to be December 24th, 2036. Right, bang. So now I got a number of years. We've all talked about our bucket list, and we make jokes about it. There's a great movie on the bucket list.
I think Clint Eastwood is on it, and in that movie as well. I can't remember.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. A lot of older guys.
Yeah. And they're doing the things that they would do if they only had the time, and they just do it. They end up doing their bucket list. Mm-hmm. When I kick the bucket, I'd like to have done this and that and the other. Now, that's a joke, but it's a kind of an interesting gag. But such considerations are worthy. What would I do if I knew I only had so much time? There's a psalm where the psalmist cries out, Lord, show me the number of days I have left, so that his anxiety about how long he has to go will be fulfilled. He will know. Why would you want to know that? Well, I've got to get certain things. I want to get certain things done. I want to take care of my family. I want to make sure everybody's okay and secure.
I want to be sure that I may explain this, in its entirety. The Death Clock's proprietary A1 isn't just pulling numbers out of thin air. It's built on a foundation of data and government-produced life expectancy tables, not unlike what you might see with an insurance company. The models offer broad life expectancy estimates, The death clock refines the predictions by incorporating data sets from the CDC and drawing insights from over 1,200 longevity studies. And it takes your personal information, it takes all of that information, it puts it into the computer, and bam, there's a date that you are expected to die. And so it's very interesting. My original thinking on it was that this is not a good thing, and this is not something that God would be pleased with. Because he's the ultimate determiner of when we die. And of course, this doesn't assume that there's not a tragic accident. I mean, this is just assuming you live a full life.
Or a data leak like they had with 23andMe, and all of a sudden all your information is on the street,
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to die next April.
A data leak.
The founder of the Death Clock says the intent isn't to incite fear. And I believe him. His name is Brent Franson, Death Clock founder and CEO. It's about giving people control over their futures. And his goal is bold, to help millions of people add 10 more years to their lives by saying, if you continue to eat the kinds of junk food that I
Well, there's
eat.
that. That's good.
Yes.
Robert Kennedy.
Yes. Yeah, maybe it's not a bad idea. And so, but I think in terms of a spiritual question, because this article and this app does not talk about faith in any way, shape, or form. It's all about human existence.
Yeah.
The question becomes, would there be an advantage? Well, I guess it comes down to live your life like it's your last day every single day. It's such of a cliche, but it's probably true. Just assume that you're going to die today, and have that, or is thinking about death too macabre and too much of a downer to live your life that way?
Well, if you got a prediction that it's next Tuesday,
Yeah.
and you're going, well, that's nonsense, but you can't shake it off, and you're looking around the corner and finding the Grim Reaper. It's funny. People have a different orientation towards it. There was an Outer Limits or
Twilight Zone
once that had a sequence where the Grim Reaper, the Angel of Death, knocked at the door, and a grandfather taking care of his granddaughter, who was very ill, was inside, and the grandfather refused to let death in. And by some means, he was able to put death up in a tree and trap him there, and keep him away from his granddaughter, because he didn't want her to die. Well, she never got better. She was in pain, and she was in trouble, and she wished for death to give her a sweet release. And then the headlines start coming up, no one's died in 14 days, across the world. And there are people mangled and in terrible pain, and they wish for the sweet release of death, and there's nothing coming. We don't understand it, And so the grandfather finally relented and said, all right, I'll let you down. And the death goes over, gently takes the girl's hand. She brightens up. She goes out with him, and she's gone.
Rod Sterling, he was the best.
It's wonderful.
It was.
Then, another day comes along, and knock on the door, and the old man goes to the door and opens it up, and there's death. And he's the only one home. And he smiled and went quietly with him. It was a lovely piece.
Oh, wow. I got goosebumps just hearing the story.
It's I preach that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sure.
Is it important for pastors to preach about death?
Absolutely. Sure.
It's part of the gospel.
Yeah.
It's a door.
It is.
I don't hear it as often. Do you think that pastors try to stay away from that? Because, many people, because let's face it, that nowadays people want the happy gospel, yippee skippy, your life is good, Jesus is wonderful, and we're all happy, and, and
we soften the whole death thing anyway. When it happens, he passed, or he's with the Lord, or which is
It was
fine.
his time.
It was his time. Not so he's died. He died. His body's he dropped the earth. He dropped the earth suit. He dropped the body. Now he's with the Lord. We soften it to the point where I've heard pastors get up at funerals and talk about how he's got a softball league of his own now, up there in heaven, and I'm just going, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You or back to golfing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
got his own.
He got his
18
own golf
holes.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His mansion has a private golf course and
Why would
basketball
you
court,
imagine
yeah.
somebody's going to give you that?
That's great for kids.
Yeah.
You know, Mommy and Daddy, what's heaven like? Well, it's like you could go up. There's an ice cream stand. You could have as much ice cream as you want. Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay for the kids. Yeah,
Very, very little kids.
yeah, very very little kids.
Well, I just wanted to, we did this in the last time we talked about this, but Ephesians 5, we were talking, you even said it a while ago, we should live every day like if it's our last.
Yeah.
Well, what we should do is, I did a sermon once, a message on death and things like that, and I said, well, you know, our goal in life is not to do good things. Our goal in life is not to have this fleshly joy. Our goal is to please God every day, to wake up every morning and say, God, let me please you today. And from there comes the good works and the good things for God's glory, not ours. But Ephesians 5, basically, if you want to make this sound like live every day if it's your last. Ephesians 5, 15, 16, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, which I think is the key part there,
Yeah.
because the days are evil. And
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to live every day loving my kids and loving my wife and serving the church, but not for myself, because that's what God wants me to do. He wants me to, I want to live every day to please my God. It's like I said this before, Matthew 6:33. I want to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then after that, all the things will be added to me, you know. So I like the death clock in some ways I don't. I don't really take it seriously, because I think I said before, is like, it's not going to come back with an answer like, you might want to go to the hospital right now. You might want to call an ambulance. You know, but I'm also saying that, you know, I like the second part of it. You know, here's some things you can do to get an extra 10 years, 15 years. And, you know, yes, all those things, like you might want to cut down on the sodium, eat right, use good oils. You know, you may not want to use so much, you know, eating. You may want to start exercising. So that's, you can get that from your doctor at a physical. But at the other end, if this is going to
Motivate.
thank you.
Yes.
However, you made a great point. There are some people out there with the mindset that this is going to give them anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's going to stress them out.
That's the bad part of this. Is if you knew a date that you were going to die, what kind of anxiety would that create? I think too, a lot of somebody who's on death row, and because they have an opportunity, they know that they're going to die at 12:01 unless the governor calls up and says, "Hold on, we're not going to do it." You know when you're going to die. Not that it's an advantage to be on death row because you're there for a reason, but they have time to
get it right.
get it right. And that's one of the reasons some people might be opposed to the death penalty, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not sure about it for that very reason.
One of the reasons I think it's okay, because if you're endlessly in this bad part of the prison and
Right.
all this bad element around you, what's the incentive?
Maybe the incentive. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that is a good point. If you know that you've committed, you're going to die, it's going to make you take your life and the consequences of what you've done very seriously.
And you said it, the thief on the cross did that. So
right.
That's why I like doing funerals. You know, I feel
You appreciate
I've
doing
got
funerals.
one chance
Yeah.
to get a person serious about their eternity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a wedding, it's useless. It's a prelude to a party.
Mm-hmm.
But but if you're talking to people who just, there's the box, his body's in there.
Mm-hmm.
This life is temporal. What are the big questions?
Yeah.
And people are asking that. You can give the answers.
yeah. I was just going to say, if there was a person of faith that had passed, what a great opportunity to talk about a family reunion in heaven.
Yeah.
But it starts with giving your life to Christ.
It's called the Death Clock app. You can look it up if you really want to know. Pastor Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship, and Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Anglican Church in downtown Chico. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Take care and so long.
Rebel religion and